I will never forget the exact date. I was sitting at my desk doing the work that I had done passionately for years when my boss called me into his office. I thought it was just a routine catch-up. I mean, why wouldn't it be? I'd spent years at this particular company, and I'd climbed a ladder all the way to the VP level. I've always been incredibly dedicated and loyal to any company I worked for, and I was also consistently in the top 5% year after year, giving everything I had to the companies that I worked for. I walked into the meeting and I sat down. He didn't offer a polite smile. He just looked at me and said words that instantly made the room spin. Anne, we've eliminated your job. Walk down the hall and go talk to human resources. Just like that. 15 years at this company, gone in 30 seconds. I was devastated, but worse than that, I was very lost. I didn't know who I was without the title, without the corner office, or without the identity that had defined my entire adult life. I tried to find another corporate job, but I was in my late 50s. One evening, my husband Tom sat me down and he looked at me with so much love and he said, "The universe is trying to tell you something. You need a new path for this next phase of your life." Then he disappeared for a couple of minutes and he came back up carrying this big box of art supplies that had been gathering dust in the basement. He set it on the table and he said, "Listen, why don't you take a little bit of time and explore using these? You have always said that you wanted to be creative, and you've obviously collected all of these art supplies over the years every time we're near an art supply store. So now is the time for you to actually dive in and just explore and see what might happen." Now, I was initially intrigued, but I also was really scared because I didn't go to art school. I had collected all of those art supplies because I thought maybe someday I'd explore my creativity, but I never got around to it. I never took an art class. I was also approaching my 60s. But listen, I was depressed enough and also just brave enough to say yes to exploring, and I did ask for one thing. I asked that Tom let me buy an online art class just to learn some of the basics because literally I couldn't draw anything other than stick figures and needed to start somewhere. And that one little yes changed absolutely everything. Welcome to the Creative Business Spark podcast. I'm Anne LaFollette, creative entrepreneur, online educator, and business coach. After getting laid off in my late 50s, I found myself adrift with no income and no sense of self. But my mom always said, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward. So I decided to reinvent myself and build an online creative business from scratch. Now I help women like you do the same. This podcast is where art, mindset, and entrepreneurship meet. I'll share behind-the-scenes lessons, inspiring stories, mindset shifts, and more. Let this be the spark you need to build or grow a creative business with joy and purpose. Let's dive in because it's never too late to create. Welcome back to the Creative Business Spark podcast. I wanted to start with that story today because I know that many of you have experienced either a layoff or a different kind of very painful transition. It might be a divorce, it might be the death of a spouse, or it might be other challenging circumstances amongst your friends and family. And maybe like me, in your spare time, you scroll past gorgeous pattern designs on Instagram or Pinterest. and you see these beautiful fabrics, wallpapers, and wrapping papers with other people's designs on them, and you think, I have always wanted to do that. I've always wanted to see my designs come to life, but I missed my window. I'm too old, and the tech is going to be too hard. I'm not going to be able to keep up. I am here today to completely break that mindset block. Regret is so much heavier than any risk that you take to try something new. If you've been sitting on a creative dream because you think you're too late to the party, I want you to grab a warm cup of tea or coffee, get comfortable, and let's talk about it. I have 3 undeniable research-backed reasons why your window isn't just open, it's waiting for you to step through it. Let's start with reason number 1. Every single year you have lived on this earth is a competitive advantage, not a liability. We live in a culture that is utterly obsessed with youth. We see the 30 under 30 in business magazines, and we subtly internalize this message that if you haven't made it by the time you're 30, or at the latest when you're 40, you've missed the boat. But I want to give you a massive reality check. Those headlines are selling a myth. A landmark study published in the Harvard Business Review looked at the actual data of successful entrepreneurs in the United States. Do you know what they found? The average age of the most successful, high-growth founders is 45. And when they looked specifically at women in their 50s, they found that these women consistently outperform their younger counterparts when it comes to follow-through, resilience, and long-term business success. The researchers put it very plainly. Age brings something that you cannot buy, you cannot shortcut, and you cannot just manifest. It brings pattern recognition, it brings emotional resilience, and it brings real life wisdom. Think about your own life for a moment. Think about the hard seasons you've navigated, the chaotic schedules you've managed, the problems you've solved without an instruction manual, and the ways you've showed up for other people. You already know how to persevere. You know how to handle disappointment, and you know how to finish what you start. That is not a liability in the creative world. That is exactly the structural foundation that a successful business or side hustle is built on. I love looking at the incredible stories of my Doodles and Pattern Design Academy alum. I want to talk to you about 2 of them who are both called Allison. The first, Allison, at 58, found herself pushed out of a long-time corporate career, just like me. She stood at a major crossroads. She could either go back and fight for a seat at the corporate table that had already moved on from her, or she could build her own table. And she chose herself. When Allison and I talked, she told me something that struck a chord. She said, after experiencing firsthand that age really does matter in the corporate world, I chose to focus on my own creative pursuits rather than go back to the corporate rat race. Notice what she didn't say. She didn't say she started with a flawless portfolio or a massive business plan. She started with a simple, firm decision that her creativity mattered. And because she had decades of life experience backing her up, she had the grit to see it through. You have that exact same grit inside of you right now. Let's move on to reason number 2. The support around you is closer than you think. You just haven't asked for it yet. Over the years, I have had the privilege of teaching thousands of women over the age of 50, all the way up into the mid and late 80s. And here's the one universal truth I've noticed. It's this. So many women harbor a deep, secret fear that if they voice their creative dreams, the people around them will roll their eyes. They worry their spouses will think it's a waste of money, or their adult children will view it as a silly little hobby dressed up in wishful thinking. So, what do? They keep it hidden. They try to do it all alone in the dark without asking for help. But the data tells a completely different story. Research from the Kauffman Foundation confirms that social support, whether it comes from a spouse, your adult kids, or a dedicated peer network, is actually one of the strongest predictors of success for women exploring a creative path later in life. The women who thrive aren't the ones white knuckling it in isolation. They are the ones who dare to let people in. When my husband Tom handed me that box of art supplies, he didn't do it because he thought I'd build an international design business. He did it because he loves me and he saw that I was hurting and he wanted me to feel better. But by accepting the small act of support, the trajectory of my life completely shifted. And here's where the other Allison's story comes in. Her story moves me every time I think about it. She's a lifelong artist, but spent years in the ultimate season of selflessness, acting as a full-time caregiver for her husband, who was battling Alzheimer's and aphasia. After her husband passed away, she knew that she needed to find herself again. She wanted to learn Adobe Illustrator to digitize her art and learn about surface pattern design, so she tried to do it all on her own. And let me tell you, that can be very painful. She told me that she spent days staring at the screen, completely overwhelmed. She also crashed her computer, not once, but twice, and she almost threw in the towel. She told herself, I can't join Anne's Doodles. I'm just too computer challenged. But instead of retreating, she did something very brave. She allowed herself to be supported. She joined my Doodles coaching week anyway and decided to lean on me as her guide and also conquer the tech in community with others. She wrote to me and said, I am making a leap of faith based on my belief in you, your wonderful teaching style, and my commitment to reinvigorating my life as an artist. Now is the time for me. She didn't need the technology to magically become simpler overnight. She just needed to stop trying to conquer it all by herself. When you join a community of women who are facing the exact same tech hurdles, the burden lifts, the support is there, and you just have to open the door and let it in. Let's move on to the third reason. The women who started anyway are the living, breathing proof that now is the exact right time. I am a big believer that our emotions are powerful, but sometimes our logical brains need hard facts before our feelings can truly transform into deep, unwavering beliefs. So let me give you another beautiful piece of evidence to quiet your inner critic. The BNP Paribas Global Entrepreneur Report ran a massive study on global business trends and discovered that women over the age of 50 who pursue creative and entrepreneurial ventures are actually more likely to succeed than their younger counterparts. Let that sink in for a second. You aren't entering this space late. You are entering this space ready. Think about the two women I just talked about. One of the Allisons has two L's in her name and the other spells it with one L. Both of them had incredibly convincing, highly logical stories they could have told themselves about why they should sit this one out. Allison could have said, the corporate world told me I'm too old, so I guess my professional journey is just over. The other Allison could have said, I've been in caregiver survival mode for years, and I can't even open a software program without crashing my computer. They had every reason to give up, but they didn't. And here's the secret I need you to understand down in your bones. They are not extraordinary superhuman women. They didn't possess some magical design gene or fairy dust or tech superpower that you don't have. They are ordinary women just like me who made an ordinary decision to just try. They said yes to one class. They took one tiny imperfect step and they let the momentum build from there. I want you to close your eyes for a moment, unless you're driving, of course, but if you can, visualize this with me. Imagine that it's exactly 1 year from today. You walk into your living room, and on the table is a physical product. Maybe it's a beautiful, vibrant table runner. Maybe it's a canvas tote bag that you carry with you and put your groceries in and that people comment on all the time. Maybe it's some holiday wrapping paper or a bolt of gorgeous fabric. And when you run your hand over that material, you realize you designed it. This pattern came straight out of your sketchbook. It came from your doodles, from your imagination, and from your unique creativity. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. And now it's finally out in the world where it belongs. How does that make you feel? That is not a pipe dream, and it's not a fantasy meant for someone else. That is exactly what happens when you stop waiting for the perfect time and decide that now is your time. What is the creative dream you've been putting off? And what is the small, simple yes you can give today to set it in motion? If you're ready to find out, you don't have to navigate the path alone. You don't have to crash your laptop in isolation. I have built the exact technical roadmap and the warmest, most supportive community of women waiting to welcome you with open arms. My next From Doodles to Dollars coaching week kicks off on June 22nd. It's a dedicated step-by-step week where we take your hand-drawn doodles and I show you exactly how they can become a real, viable product that you can wear, gift, or sell. Right now, you can grab early bird pricing. It's just $37. Head over to the show notes or just go to members.artwithann.com/doodles to secure your spot. Remember, the window isn't closing, my friend. It never was. Your years of experience are your competitive advantage. The community is ready to catch you and support you, and it is officially your turn to create. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you're listening to the podcast, please share it with a friend. Maybe this is the message that they need to hear today. Keep doodling, keep dreaming, and I always like to say in closing that I'm Ann LaFollette. And remember, it's never too late to create. That's it for today, and I'll see you again next week.